There is a moment, a very specific, sacred, almost indescribable moment that happens in the life of every single person who was born to walk a different path. It is the moment when the noise of the world, the laughing, the whispering, the doubting, the dismissing, finally goes quiet inside of you. Not because they stopped, they never stopped, but because something inside of you shifted so fundamentally, so completely, that their voices no longer reach the part of you that matters. You stopped hearing them, not from arrogance, not from pride, but from alignment, from finally understanding who you are, what you carry, and where you are going. And in that silence, that glorious, electric, terrifying silence, you realize something that no one could have told you. You realize that you were never behind, you were never lost. You were never the weak one. You were being prepared, slowly, quietly, painfully, precisely. And now the people who once called you weak are looking around, wondering where you went, and why everything they wanted seems to be gravitating toward you instead of them. This video is for you. The one who waited, the one who was silent, the one who endured. Your season has arrived. Part 1. The weight you were asked to carry. Let's start at the beginning, because that is where the misunderstanding lives. In the beginning, in your beginning, you did not look like what the world expected greatness to look like. You were too quiet or too loud, too emotional or too detached, too idealistic or too strange. You moved at a different pace. You thought in a different language. You felt things at a depth that others found uncomfortable, even threatening. And the world, which has always feared what it cannot categorize, did what it always does. It tried to shrink you. They told you to be more realistic, more practical, more like everyone else. And for a while, let's be honest about this, for a while you listened, you tried to shrink, you tried to fit into the shape they carved out for you. You dimmed your light not because you wanted to, but because the cost of shining seemed too high. The isolation was real, the rejection was real. The loneliness of being someone who sees things differently, who feels things more deeply, who knows in their bones that there is something more, that loneliness is real and it is heavy. But here is what no one tells you about that weight. It was not punishment, it was preparation. Every pound of that heaviness was building something in you. A strength, a stillness, a depth of character that cannot be manufactured in comfortable conditions. You are not being crushed, you are being forged. Part 2. Why they called you weak. They called you weak because you cried, because you felt, because you walked away from things that others would have fought tooth and nail to hold on to. They called you weak because you chose peace over chaos, silence over argument, and retreat over revenge. They misread every single one of your choices. What they saw as weakness was actually an extraordinary level of self-mastery that they had never encountered and could not comprehend. When you walked away from a toxic situation, they said you couldn't handle it. When you chose silence instead of retaliation, they said you had nothing to say. When you stopped competing with them, they said you had given up. When you began spending time alone, rebuilding yourself from the inside out, they said you were antisocial, broken, lost. They had a label for every single thing you did, and every single label was wrong, because they were watching your exterior and completely missing your interior. They saw a person withdrawing. They did not see a warrior going into a cave to sharpen their sword. They saw a person who had stopped performing. They did not see someone who had finally stopped wasting energy on an audience that was never worthy of the show. They saw quiet. They did not see a storm gathering itself with perfect, patient, divine precision. They called you weak because they had no framework for what you actually were, a person in the deepest, most sacred phase of transformation. And the beautiful, almost poetic irony is this: their misreading of you is exactly what allowed you to finish the process undisturbed. Part 3. The spiritual anatomy of the chosen one. Now let us talk about something that the motivational world often dances around, but rarely lands on with the full weight it deserves: the spiritual dimension of being chosen. Because this is not just about mindset, this is not just about discipline and hard work and refusing to quit, though those things matter enormously. There is something else at work here, something older, deeper, and more intelligent than any strategy you could devise. There is a force in this universe, call it God, call it source, call it the universe, call it the quantum field of infinite possibility, call it whatever word your heart uses when it bows in recognition. And that force does not make mistakes. It does not randomly assign suffering to people. It does not arbitrarily hand certain individuals enormous dreams and then abandon them. Every experience you have been through, every rejection, every failure, every night you spent wondering if any of it was worth it, was architected with a precision that the human mind cannot fully grasp. You were not chosen despite your pain. You were chosen in part because of your capacity to move through pain and emerge not broken, but transformed. The chosen one is not someone who never suffers. The chosen one is someone who suffers in ways that purify rather than destroy. Someone whose trials strip away everything false until only the truest, most powerful version of themselves remains. That stripping process is what looked like weakness from the outside. It was actually the most sophisticated form of spiritual surgery ever performed on a human soul. Part 4. The dark night of the soul was not a mistake. There was a period, and if you are truly walking this path, you know exactly what period I am referring to, where everything fell apart. Not one thing, everything. Relationships collapsed, plans disintegrated, the identity you had built crumbled. The future you had imagined dissolved, and you were left standing in the rubble of what used to be your life, wondering what you did wrong, wondering why God or the universe or fate had abandoned you, wondering if the dream you had carried since childhood was nothing more than a delusion. That period has a name in the mystical traditions of virtually every spiritual lineage on earth. It is called the dark night of the soul. And it is not, as it appears from the inside, a punishment or a sign that you have failed. It is a passage, a necessary, unavoidable, impossibly important passage that separates the person you were programmed to be by your family, your culture, your wounds, your fears, from the person you were cosmically designed to become. The dark night destroys every false structure, every relationship that was based on who you were performing rather than who you actually are. Every career path that was chosen out of fear rather than calling. Every belief about yourself that was handed to you by people who were themselves operating from their own unexamined wounds. It tears all of it down. And in the tearing, it terrifies you, because you do not know yet that the deconstruction is the prerequisite for the construction of something real, something aligned, something that will last. You did not fail during the dark night. You graduated through it. Part 5. Silence is not absence, it is accumulation. One of the most misunderstood aspects of the chosen one's journey is the silence, the long stretches of apparent inactivity, the seasons where nothing seems to be happening on the outside, the months, sometimes years, where you are not posting, not announcing, not performing your growth for anyone. And the world, which equates visibility with progress, interprets this silence as defeat, as disappearance, as confirmation that you were never really going anywhere. What they do not understand is that the most important growth always happens underground. Before the tree towers above the skyline, its roots must go deep enough to support that height. Before the volcano erupts and reshapes the landscape, pressure must build for months, years, sometimes decades beneath the surface. Before the champion takes the stage, there are 10,000 hours of solitary practice that no audience ever witnesses. Your silence was not absence. Your silence was accumulation. Every book you read in the quiet. Every prayer you whispered in the dark. Every journal entry you wrote at 3 in the morning trying to make sense of everything. Every moment of meditation where you sat with your discomfort instead of running from it. Every hard conversation you had with yourself in the mirror. Every pattern you recognized and chose to break. Every trauma you walked back into, not to relive it but to release it. None of that was visible. All of it was real. All of it was building the architecture of the person you are now standing up as. And now that you are beginning to emerge, now that the roots have gone deep enough to support the tree, the same people who mistook your silence for weakness are watching your rise with an awe they cannot fully articulate, because they know they never did the underground work. Part 6. The moment they realized they were wrong. There is a specific moment, and I want you to sit with this, to feel it, to recognize it if it has already arrived, or to know it is coming if it has not. There is a specific moment when the people who doubted you realize they were wrong. It does not always come with fanfare. It does not always come with them walking up to you and offering a formal apology, though sometimes that happens too. More often, it comes quietly. It comes in the form of a text message from someone who never responded to yours, in the form of an opportunity being extended from a direction you never expected, in the form of someone who once dismissed your vision now sharing work that looks suspiciously like what you described years ago, in the form of eyes that once looked through you now looking at you with something that lives between respect and regret. It comes in 100 different forms. And the extraordinary thing, the thing that marks you as truly transformed, is that when it comes, you do not feel the triumphant revenge satisfaction that a younger version of you might have fantasized about. Instead, you feel something quieter, something almost like compassion, because you understand now that they were doing the best they could with the awareness they had. They were not villains, they were just people who couldn't see what you could see. And their inability to see it was never a reflection of your worth. It was always only a reflection of their vision. You were never wrong. You were just early. Part 7. What they desperately want now. Let us talk about the desperation, because it is real and it is important to name it, not to celebrate it cruelly, but to understand what it reveals about the nature of this journey. The people who once dismissed you, who once used you as a cautionary tale, who once pointed to your struggles as evidence of your unworthiness, some of them are now watching you from a distance with something desperate in their eyes. They want proximity, they want association. Some of them want a piece of whatever it is you have built. Some of them want validation that they were actually rooting for you all along. Some of them want a second chance at a connection they severed or let atrophy. And underneath all of it is a recognition that they cannot quite bring themselves to say out loud that they misjudged you, that the thing they dismissed was real, that the person they overlooked was exactly who they said they weren't. Now, how you respond to this desperation is one of the most important spiritual tests of your journey. Because the ego will want to use this moment as ammunition. The ego will want to make them feel what you felt. The ego will want to close the door as definitively as they once closed theirs. But the soul, your soul, the one that has been forged through everything you have walked through, the soul knows better. It knows that desperation is just unawakened longing. It knows that what they really want, beneath the surface want, is the same thing you spent years searching for. A sense of meaning, purpose, and alignment. Your job is not to punish. Your job is not to perform your success for their benefit either. Your job is simply to remain in your frequency and let the universe handle the mathematics of what each person receives. Part 8. The burden of being chosen. Let's be honest. I would be doing you a disservice if I painted this path as nothing but triumphant arrival and vindicated dreams. So let me be honest with you about the burden, because the chosen one's path carries one. Being chosen does not mean being exempt from difficulty. It means being assigned a difficulty that corresponds to the size of what you are here to do. The bigger the calling, the heavier the preparation. The more expansive the impact you are meant to have, the more thoroughly you must be stripped of everything that would corrupt that impact. Ego, fear, the need for external validation, the addiction to approval. This is why the most powerful people you have ever encountered often carry the deepest wounds. Not because the universe is cruel, but because their capacity for depth required those depths to be carved. There will be moments on this path, even now, even after everything you have survived, where the weight of it will make you want to lay it down. where the loneliness of seeing what others cannot yet see will make you question whether the vision is worth the isolation, where the responsibility of carrying a gift that asks to be shared with the world will feel like more than one person can hold. In those moments, I want you to remember something. You were not given the calling and then left to figure it out alone. The same intelligence that chose you is the same intelligence that sustains you. You do not have to carry it alone. You only have to take the next step, and then the next, and then the next. That is all that is ever asked of you. Part 9. The frequency shift. What changed inside you? Something changed. Let us name it precisely, because naming things accurately gives you power over them. At some point in your journey, and you may or may not be able to pinpoint exactly when, something shifted at a fundamental vibrational level. You stopped living from fear and began, however tentatively at first, to live from something else. From trust, from knowing. From a quiet but unshakable conviction that you are held, that you are guided, that you are not walking this path randomly. This shift is what the spiritual traditions call an awakening, but the word has been so overused that it has lost some of its power. So let me describe it differently. It is the moment when your nervous system begins to respond to life from a place of rootedness rather than reactivity. When you stop needing other people's validation to feel certain of your own worth. When you look at a situation that would have previously sent you into a spiral of anxiety or desperation, and instead feel a kind of spacious curiosity, a genuine openness to what this experience is here to teach you. It is the moment when you stop trying to force outcomes and begin to cooperate with timing. When you stop competing with other people's journeys and become genuinely, almost effortlessly focused on your own. This is the frequency that everything you desire exists at. Not the frequency of desperation or striving or proving, the frequency of knowing, of alignment, of trusting the intelligence that runs through all of creation and runs through you as well. And once you have found that frequency, once you have tuned yourself to it through the discipline of your inner work, things begin to move. Not always in the ways you expected, but in the ways that are actually right. The universe is not withholding from you. It was always just waiting for this. Part 10. Your competitors became your audience. Here is something almost cosmically poetic that happens on the chosen one's journey. And it happens with such reliable consistency that I want you to hear it clearly. The people who were once in competition with you, who once measured themselves against you, who once felt threatened by your presence or your potential, at a certain point in your emergence, they stop competing and start watching. They become your audience, not because you demanded it, not because you campaigned for it, but because there is something magnetic about a person who has done the real work, who has walked through the fire and come out on the other side, not with a performance of resilience, but with the actual embodiment of it. You can feel the difference between someone who is performing strength and someone who has earned it. The former makes noise. The latter makes people go quiet. You went quiet for a long time, and the world thought you were gone. Now that you are speaking again, not with words necessarily, but with the way you move, the way you hold yourself, the way you show up, the way you create, people are paying a quality of attention to you that you never received when you were performing for it. Because the attention that matters is never chased, it is attracted. And what attracts it is the one thing that cannot be faked, truth. The truth of who you are, fully expressed, without apology, without the need for anyone's permission. That is irresistible. That is what your former competitors cannot look away from. They came to watch you fail and stayed to witness something they did not have language for. Part 11. Detachment is not indifference, it is power. One of the most misread qualities of the fully activated chosen one is their detachment. And I want to be very careful here, because there are two kinds of detachment, and they look similar from the outside, but are completely different in nature. The first is the detachment of someone who has been hurt so many times that they have shut down emotionally, who has built walls so high that nothing, not pain, but also not joy, not love, not wonder, can get in. This is not power. This is protection masquerading as power. It is a wound-wearing armor. The second kind of detachment, the kind I am talking about, is the detachment of someone who is so deeply rooted in their own center that they are no longer controlled by the turbulence of external circumstances. They feel things fully, they love deeply, they are moved by beauty and troubled by injustice, but they are not swept away. The storm comes, and they stand in it, and they feel its full force, and they are not destroyed by it, because something in them knows that the storm is not the final word. This is the detachment of the person who has learned that their peace is not contingent on other people's choices, that their worth is not determined by other people's opinions, that their future is not limited by other people's imagination. This detachment is what allows you to watch people who once hurt you struggle without feeling the need to intervene, and without feeling the guilt of not intervening. It is what allows you to see others get the opportunities you wanted and feel genuine happiness for them instead of bitterness. It is what allows you to hold your vision with open hands instead of clenched fists. It is one of the most powerful states a human being can inhabit, and it is one that cannot be shortcut. It can only be earned through exactly the kind of journey you have been on. Part 12. The universe always completes its investments. I want to offer you a frame for understanding your life that I believe will change everything if you truly receive it. The universe does not make incomplete investments. When something is seeded in you, a dream, a calling, a vision, a longing that will not leave you alone no matter how many times you try to be practical and let it go, that is not a random occurrence. That is not your imagination running away with you. That is an investment, a deliberate placement of a specific frequency in a specific vessel for a specific purpose in a specific time. And the universe always completes its investments, not on your timeline, not in your preferred method, not in the way you imagined when you were still young enough to think you understood how reality works, but with a completeness and a perfection that will one day, and this day comes for every single person who stays the course, leave you looking back at everything you endured and seeing not a story of suffering, but a story of precise, loving, intelligent orchestration. Every person who left, every door that closed, every time the floor fell out from under you, every night you spent in the dark asking why, all of it was the universe protecting its investment, removing what would have corrupted the final product, redirecting you away from what would have satisfied you temporarily but diminished you permanently, toward what is meant for you with a specificity that no human plan could have designed. You are not abandoned. You are not forgotten. You are not the exception to the principle of completion. You are the evidence of it, still in the process of being written. Part 13. How to move in your season. Your season is here, or it is arriving, and there are things I need to tell you about how to move in it, because the season of arrival carries its own tests. Tests that are different from the tests of the wilderness, but tests nonetheless. The first, stay humble. Not the false humility that minimizes what you have built or apologizes for taking up space. The genuine humility that never forgets what the journey cost, that remains teachable, that knows the intelligence behind your success is greater than you. Arrogance in the season of arrival is the fastest way to exit that season prematurely. The second, be intentional about who you bring with you. Not everyone who shows up at your door now is meant to travel the next road with you. Some people are arriving to receive something from you. Some are arriving to take something from you. Your discernment, which has been sharpened by everything you have survived, is your compass here. Use it. Do not let the intoxication of arrival make you careless with your energy or your trust. The third, do not let the arrival make you forget the wilderness, because the wilderness is where your character lives. The season of recognition can be intoxicating, and intoxication makes you forget things. Do not forget. Do not let success distance you from the depth you developed in the dark. That depth is your most valuable asset. The fourth, remain in motion. Arrival is not the destination. It is a corridor. Walk through it with gratitude and without lingering. There is always more. In the most beautiful sense of the word. Always more to create, more to understand, more to become, more to give. Your journey is not over. It is entering its most expansive chapter yet. Part 14. To the ones still in the wilderness. I know that not everyone watching this is standing in a season of arrival. Some of you are still in the wilderness, still in the dark night, still in the season of silence and preparation and wondering if any of it is real. I see you. The universe sees you. And I need you to hear this with everything you have. Where you are right now is not where you will remain. What you are going through right now is not your final state. The pain is real. The confusion is real. The feeling of being invisible and overlooked and somehow fundamentally wrong is real, in the sense that you are genuinely feeling it. But it is not the truth of what you are. You are in preparation. You are in the most sacred and demanding phase of a journey that will make everything you are suffering now make sense in a way that takes your breath away. I cannot tell you when the shift will come. No one can. The timeline of transformation is not something the human mind has access to. But I can tell you this with absolute certainty. It comes for everyone who continues, for everyone who does not give up on themselves, for everyone who keeps doing the inner work even when the outer world shows no evidence that the work is making a difference. It comes. Stay. Please stay. Not for anyone else. Not for the version of arrival that your mind has imagined, but for yourself. For the version of yourself that is on the other side of this wilderness, waiting to meet you, fully alive, fully free, fully aligned with everything you came here to be. They need you to not give up. They need you to take one more step. Part 15. The final truth. You were never weak. We end where we began, but we end differently, because now you understand. Now you have the full context. Now you can look back at every moment someone called you weak and see it clearly for what it was, a person without the vision to see what you were becoming, projecting their own limitations onto your limitless process. You were never weak. You were never lost. You were never the cautionary tale they tried to make you. You were always, from the very first breath of your life, a person carrying something rare and real and sacred. A person whose capacity for depth was always going to draw a corresponding depth of experience. A person whose light was always going to attract both those who wanted to be near it and those who wanted to extinguish it. A person whose journey was always going to look different from the standard script, because the standard script was never written for someone like you. They called you weak. They were desperate. And you were not even watching because you were too busy becoming. Now look at where you are. Now feel the solidity of the ground beneath your feet. Ground you built with your own hands, in your own time, according to a blueprint that only you and the universe had access to. Now feel the quiet, unshakable knowing that no one can take what you have genuinely become. Not because it is defended by walls, but because it is rooted in truth. You are the chosen one, not in the sense of being superior to others, but in the sense of being specifically selected, specifically designed, and specifically equipped for the specific thing that only you can bring into this world. The preparation is complete. The season has changed. And you, at last, are ready. Closing. A final message. If this video found you today, it was not an accident. Nothing on your path has been. You were guided here by the same intelligence that has been guiding your entire journey. The same force that protected you when you thought you were abandoned, that redirected you when you thought you were lost, that never once took its hand off your shoulder even in the moments you were most convinced you were alone. Take a breath. Feel where you are. Not where you think you should be, not where you were, where you are, right now, in this moment, and recognize if you can, that this moment, exactly as it is part of the perfect unfolding of a story that has a destination you cannot yet fully imagine but that your soul already knows. Go forward, with faith, with courage, with the full force of everything you are. The world has been waiting for you. Not the version of you that was performing and apologizing and shrinking. The real you, the whole you, the free you. Go. The strongest souls are forged in the deepest fires. What they called your weakness was always your origin story.